The NES is old, very old at that. No one really produces games for that system anymore, so if you really like it, sooner or later you're gonna find yourself looking through your collection of NES games to find something to play, only to see that you've already played everything that the console has to offer. And if you're like me, replaying games can be tedious to some degree, and only true masterpieces won't bore you the second time around. And if you're also like me, and you're not of Japanese descent or living in Japan, then this video might be for you. Over the years, a lot of great games have been released on the Famicom that have never made it to us filthy Westerners. But thanks to some dedicated fans, a lot of these great games have been made playable for people who can't speak Japanese whatsoever. And of course, I'm talking about fan translations. You can almost always be sure that games with fan translations are good games, because no one would waste their time to translate garbage. And that is why I downloaded and played a lot of them, so I can show you the best ones, in my opinion. So let's get started with the most obvious ones, shall we? Final Fantasy III.
But Jana, this game got released for the SNES. What are you talking about?
Yeah, no, that's wrong. That's so wrong. Final Fantasy III first got its English release as a remake on the Nintendo DS in 2006, and the Final Fantasy III that you might be thinking about is actually the 6th installment of the series, but the 3rd main title to come out in the West. But, I mean, who doesn't know that by now? Everyone should know that by now. Anyways, while the DS remake of Final Fantasy III has been getting overall positive reviews, many believe the original to be the better version, and rightfully so. While Final Fantasy I and II started the series, Final Fantasy III was the one game that brought many of the features we now expect from Final Fantasy games into the franchise. It has a heavier focus on story than its predecessors, and we now even have what you could call cutscenes. But worry not, because of the NES's limitations, you won't have to sit through 1,000 of unnecessary dialogue boxes. Looking at you, Final Fantasy III Remake. Looking at you, Project Octopath Traveler. Looking at all of your new games, Square Enix. Hey, Square Enix. The fuck are you doing? The story is crisp and short, while still remaining complex enough for you to feel rewarded by story sequences after the sheer endless amount of grinding you have to do. Oh, yeah. Did I mention that you definitely have to grind a lot in this game? Because you do. And if you don't like that, then maybe the remake is the better option for you, since it made a lot of parts of the game way easier. But if you want to be the cool kid on your schoolyard, you should definitely check out the original. You play as 4 orphan boys who accidentally fall into a cave only to find the Wind Crystal, which then grants the 4 adventurers some of its powers, and thus making them the Warriors of Light, to save the world. Yeah, the plot is pretty basic, but the game makes up for it with its great job system, phenomenal soundtrack, and interesting locations. So definitely give it a try. The next pretty obvious choice is Digital Devil Story Megami Tensei. This is the first game of another sheer endless franchise called the Megami Tensei franchise. It includes popular classics like the Persona series, Catherine, and the Shin Megami Tensei games, which are all still going on today and are altogether personal favorites of mine. Many of the features we know and love today are already in the game, but the game can get a little frustrating at times. Navigating isn't really easy unless you use the mapper skill, which shows you a map but also consumes 2 MP at a time. So I fully recommend getting a pen and some paper ready instead so you can map out the game on your own. Apart from that, it's hard. It's really hard. Jesus Christ, it's so goddamn hard, it's gonna rape your innocent little booty hole, that's how hard it is. If you don't know what you're doing, you can die to the first enemy you encounter fairly easily. So I only recommend it to people who have played some of the main series Megami Tensei games before, and people who are just in general used to very hard old school RPGs. If you've never played any of the Mega 10 games, then this is definitely not the game to start with. I would recommend Shin Megami Tensei 3 for the PS2, for example, or Shin Megami Tensei 4 for the 3DS. But overall, this game shines with its complexity and art style. But unlike later installments of this franchise, the music is gonna make your eardrums want to die in the most horrible way they could imagine. This one is actually quite hit or miss, but I enjoyed it for what it's worth, and maybe you will too. And now that we got that out of the way, let's hit it off with a game that I really did not expect to be as great as it actually is. Sweet Home. Fucking Sweet Home. If I had to describe it in genres, I would say survival horror JRPG? And if you think this sounds dumb, then you're not wrong. But this combination works way better than expected. This game genuinely had me on my toes a lot and builds up quite a creepy and eerie atmosphere. You're playing as an investigation team consisting of 5 people who are searching for Mamiya Ichiru's fresco inside of a haunted mansion. But upon entering the mansion, our protagonists find themselves trapped by a ghostly lady who then threatens to kill everyone who dares to enter the building, which kinda sucks because you've just entered the building. And your goal of the game is to get out of the mansion by properly using all of the protagonists. Each one of the 5 characters has their own tool item. You have Kazuo with his lighter, Akiko with her medical equipment, Taro with his camera, Asuka who has a vacuum, because of course an investigation team needs a vacuum cleaner, and lastly Emi, who for some reason has a key that opens all of the doors. You use all of these different characters to progress through the story and make it further into the mansion, and at last out of the mansion, hopefully. This game served as the main inspiration for Resident Evil, by the way, which you can clearly see by comparing these two. You have the tense door opening cutscenes, inventory management, a lot of the story is being told through notes that can be found throughout the mansion, and well, both games kinda take place in a mansion. The battle system is quite different though, as this game plays much like a Final Fantasy or a Dragon Quest during the fights, whereas Resident Evil had a real-time action fighting system. I won't spoil you the rest of the story since this is truly a game worth playing and I just fully recommend it to all of you. If you have never heard of it, or if you like Resident Evil, or just survival horror games in general, it's just fucking awesome. It's a great game to pick up, as it just shows perfectly how far this genre has come already in the last decade. So, pick it up. What the fuck are you waiting for? Next on the list is Cosmopolis Galavan. This game is a lot like what we nowadays call Metroidvanias, but way before we started calling them that. It is much more akin to Metroid than it is to the later Castlevanias though, as you have doors that can only be opened by attacking them with specific weapons, and slightly slower gameplay. You play as Galavan, who starts out as a weak-ass squishy human with a lightsaber, taking out weird aliens and monsters along his way. The more you progress in the game, the more powerful you get though, even providing Samus-esque armor modifications and typical Metroid-like exploration. However, it also brings its own features into the mix by giving you an RPG-like leveling system in which you gain more HP and CP. The CP is basically your ammo, and if it runs out, you're bound to use the saber again. There's honestly not much to say about this game, apart from it being awesome, challenging, and having great exploration. Although, just like with Megami Tensei, you probably would want to turn down the volume a lot, like to 1% maybe, so you can still hear the smooshies of the enemies. That's it. It's not a good music. Not a good music. It's really... The last game on my list is called Zombie Hunter, as you're politely being told by this ear-hurting voice clip. It's an action side-scroller with RPG elements, much like our previous game, but less Metroidvania-y. Although the monsters really could be from a Castlevania game, especially this Wait, what? Balamb? It's Balamb. It's called a Balamb. Jeez. But yeah. You gain EXP with which you can level up, which in turn increases all of your stats. You can find a shit ton of items, including equipable weapons, as well as food and potions to heal yourself, and obviously, gold. This time, thank fucking goodness, the music even is somewhat okay. You might hear the same short loop a lot of times over and over again, sure, but it's not Megami Tensei or Cosmo Police, and instead has some melodies up in this bitch. Overall, this is a fun little game, and I do the recommending at you. And now, after seeing all these awesome games, you might be wondering,
Jana, how do I play these games? I can't find the fan-translated ROMs online anywhere!
first of all, fuck you! I'm obligated to say that to all of you pirates. Please love me, Nintendo Senpai, please, please, please. And second, you'll need to patch that shit yourself. What do you think this is? This ain't some fucking rich kid's house where you just scream down to the servant that you want some fucking pizza and he brings you fucking pizza. This is the fucking real life, kids. Get used to it. Fucking stick up their ass, spoiled brats prostituting their bodies so that they don't have to do anything. They just get fucked up their bums and get money for it. To patch that shit yourself, you need 3 things. The patch.bpus, the unpatched ROM, and a teeny tiny useful little program called Beat. Preferably, put all the files in the same folder, start that exe, and apply the patch. Choose your patch file, and then choose the ROM you want to patch, and proceed to give the patched ROM a name. Easy, right? Well, no, you forgot to give the file the NES ending, you fucking idiot. Jesus Christ. Okay, now you're good. Now you're good. And that concludes the tutorial, as well as the video in general. I hope you guys are gonna have some fun with these fresh and funky Japan-only NES games. If you liked my buttons, click the videos down below, hit the subscribe button and bell me. Also look at my other buttons, of which there might only be one more right now, but many will follow. And remember kids, don't take strangers from candies.